share the.
That was me. Okay.
No, you want the agenda.
Oh,
Yes, please.
put my camera on back on. My camera. It's cool how the owl has like 3 people.
I can put.
Mm-hmm.
All right, welcome everyone to the regular MCS Board of Directors meeting. It is April 15th, 2025. We're in person here at MCS Library. I have no pre-submitted public comments. Which brings us to changes to an approval of the agenda. Do we have any other additional changes to the agenda? Okay, make a motion that we approve the agenda as written. Can I get a second? Thank you, Tiffany. All those in favor? Any opposed, voice or opposition? Motion passes. That takes us to the approval of the March minutes. Make a motion that we approve the March minutes as sent out by Marie.
I had one suggestion.
Yeah.
So when we discussed, oh, sorry, my brain just went blank. When we were discussing the 4-day hybrid school week, we had a motion in there, and there in the motion language, it said an option to have a Friday option. But I think the motion, I think we agreed to have a Friday option. There was just an extra option within the recording of the motion.
Just have that cleaned up.
Yeah, does that track with everyone's?
I think without seeing it,
Yeah,
Yeah, I got the notes you sent and went over the video and your suggestion that you made. Director Watson makes a motion that MCS move to a 4-day school week with Friday option for 26, 27.
As the change.
As the
that's the
change,
proposed change, yeah.
just to clean it up. It's
Okay.
there, I put 2 options, there was, I put an option 2 times,
No problem.
so it's just cleaning up the language.
All right.
And then correcting the time from 8 p.m. start time to 8 a.m., which is on the top of page 7.
Any other discussion about that? Okay, so the motion will be amended to approve the March minutes with the noted edits. Can I get a second? Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed, voice or opposition? Thank you. That brings us to item number 5, the 25 through 27 integrated guidance application presentation from Teresa Peters.
so I kind of got to go through it. It's just gonna chime in. Teresa, are you there?
I am, thank you.
Okay, so I do want to introduce Teresa Peters. She is from the Columbia Gorge Education Service District. And with her guidance, we are actually ready to submit after we present to you. And once we got OD said to wait till North Wasco submits theirs, but our integration for our 25-27 integrated guidance application. So I'm going to go through. So do you have it? We have it on screen. It's on the screen. Okay. So, so it's North Wasco County Consortium. So we're actually under the umbrella of North Wasco County School District. And we're just going to go quickly over the purpose of it, the background, the planning and the input, and then really, what are we going to spend the money on? The purpose is to share what was prioritized in the plan, given the range of inputs. And so we've had, a lot of, talking with parents. We had a lot of surveys going out. And I think the strategic planning committee was also very helpful in guiding this. To hear feedback on the plan now that it's been developed is kind of where we're bringing it to you. And then to present it. So we're presenting it here, and then we will have a couple of slides of ours will go into the North Wasco presentation, and that will be at their board meeting on the 24th, and I'll be attending that meeting, just not to present, but just to be there. So the integration effort, it started out with the SIA grant, then they had a lot of different grants, high school grant, Teresa, stop me if you need to. Anyway, and so the idea was to bring everything under one umbrella so that it makes the application process a little bit more streamlined. And they're combining the processes for community engagement. Instead of doing community engagement for this grant and that grant, they kind of wanted you to have it under an umbrella.
Are we on the right slide?
No, we should be on background, sorry.
Okay.
I'm gonna go fast, because like Teresa and I sent her the slides, she said, well, you know, we could probably get through a couple of these slides quicker. I do, so can you go to the aligned programs? So just so you know, like, these are all of the programs that are under the integrated guidance. And so we really are only getting money for the student investment account, that's the SIA. That's where we get a pretty good sized chunk of money. The early indicator and intervention services systems, which isn't like $455.
It is. It's only about $455 each year, and that's a small allotment per child per ADM.
Yeah, so we definitely include that in there, and then we just try to find something that we can tack on to fund. And then our early literacy success grant, and that is about $60,000. Although I was talking to ODE, and there's a bill in the legislature right now that would give us another $60,000. So she feels like it's got a good chance. And so there is something in here that tiered planning. We're actually going to add tiered planning to ours. We didn't have it in there because if we have that already, the tiered planning that they have in it, it just like, if you had some more money, what would you do with it? And we're going to go ahead and put that in there because if we get the more money, then it just makes it easy. You don't have to reapprove our grant. Have you heard that, Teresa?
Yes, the tiered planning can be used a couple of different ways, and that would be one of them. So yes.
And so the student investment account is on here. So we need to go one more slide. To meet the students' mental health, behavioral needs, and increase academic achievement, and to reduce disparities among student focal groups. And then the early indicator intervention system, that's that tiny grant, is for the development of data collection analysis systems to kind of help us identify students that we need to support. And then the early literacy grant, that's grants to the school districts to increase early literacy. Right now, it is really just the money they want you to spend it on is K3. I think last year you were able to do 4 or 5, but I think they got rid of that.
Correct. And they controlled the percentage that you could spend on your 4 or 5. Yes.
All right. Meeting. So our planning members were myself, Jen, the strategic planning committee. I kind of didn't loop them in because we were looking at some of the, what were the big things that our school was kind of looking at, what we needed to have. And once you look at the strategic plan, you'll kind of see how that fits in. We did meet with staff. We also, I talked to community members. We did some surveys. And then Teresa Peters was also a big part of our team. She kept us doing it correctly.
That's good.
And a placeholder on your busy day. It was a calendar item. So
yeah, I know. Often we'd say, "Oh, we're not ready." She goes, "Let's just go sit down and get it done." So we just did it. So, you need community engagement, comprehensive needs assessment, potential impact on focal students, the use of an equity lens, development of a 4-year plan with outcomes and strategies. So, and in the guidance, you need to state what you're hoping to, what you're looking at improving, and then how are you going to measure that? And then we did kind of look at the plan that we currently have and revised, and just kind of went off of that. Community engagement, we had back to school night, we had ELD family night, many opportunities for surveys throughout the year, fall and spring conferences, talking to parents during that. We will have also a chance at portfolio night. And then monthly community skate nights is always a nice place to go and chat with the folks and talk to them a little bit. We did a lot of surveying there. Like, here's a QR code, please do our survey. So yeah. These are the priorities that emerged to design a comprehensive. So this is really looking at our strategic plan is again, they're very integrated. Design a comprehensive school curriculum, emphasizing critical thinking skills, the creative arts, and adult place learning. Increase reading, math, and science achievement across all grade levels. Create a school culture where everyone feels a sense of belonging and safety, and be the hub for community engagement, connection, and lifelong learning. And so here are our, so we have to state our intended outcomes were to increase reading achievement across K-3 grade levels. In the previous grant application that we had, they combined reading and math. We actually are going to break that out so that it's because the literacy grant, because now that it's all integrated, we want to make sure that the literacy grant has that K-3 component. All students have an increased sense of belonging in school, which will be shown through increased rates of regular attenders. All students will report an increased sense of safety and belonging at school. Increased math achievement across grade levels, K-8. Provide a well-rounded educational experience for all students, K-8, through enrichment opportunities and activities. So here's how we're going to spend our money. I didn't include that $455 because it really is just going to go for I think we use Frontline to kind of help progress monitor, and that's just a very small portion of what that costs. Our early literacy grant is $62,546.20. Our SAA dollars are $195,342.85. So what I try to do this year is streamline, because in the previous years, they had a lot of little things that they were spending money on. And you do have to report to the state how you have to report that you've spent the money in order to get the money back. And to make Veronica's life a lot easier, we just chose to do, we're gonna fund a K-3 literacy specialist. Part of that is going to come from the SIA, and part of it will come from early literacy. Full-time SEL teacher, that is also fully funded through the SIA. Financial support for enrichments and clubs, $10,000. Professional development funds for math education. So we've allotted $8,000. So if teachers want to go take a math class, some professional development, that's what we're going to pull our funds out of. That will help increase what they currently have for spending on classes. Letter stipend for K-5 staff. I think we upped it just a few dollars, and that also helps pay for the person that comes to run that meeting. Progress monitoring programs, which is Forefront Amplify. We use those programs to help us progress monitor students in reading and math. We also this year, or the next school year, are going to be rolling out the NWE map testing that will test for reading and math. You can also do language skills 3 times a year to help us monitor growth. It's a pretty, and it will be done for K-8. We're not going to have the K-1s because it's a computer test and we don't want the K-1s on computers. It just would be really hard to test. 2 through 8, sorry, 2 through 8. Yes, thank you.
So that will be in addition to the current testing?
Well, we're going to take away the iReady reading test, the reading test, because I think we have to keep the math one because we've still paid for it.
Yeah.
So eventually we'll probably let go of that. And then hopefully, I have just found like it's a lot, the information that you get is a lot more in-depth. It also will, like for the math, if you have kids that have taken the MAP test, it will look at their skills and their standards, and it will integrate with like Khan Academy and IXL. And so kids that need to do some practicing, you can do that, and it just gives them an individual things to practice on. So what, things that they're missing. Purchase additional Chromebooks. We have right now, I think everybody has enough, but if we add, we're going to have a few more students, and then we also have some upgrading that we need to have done too. So that's about 8,000 Chromebooks, are about $400 a piece. Raiden was finding me some really good deals on them.
I know, that's funny.
And then I just put other items in there because it's just a lot of field trips, and we would like to pay for some outdoor education. So just some other things that go in there. Questions?
Can any part of the bus be funded with any of these things?
No, yeah, because the SIA is really for increasing student achievement and also for increasing like that social piece. Is that correct, Teresa?
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
it's
bus.
pretty limited on, each of the grants has allowable uses. And it's pretty detailed in there about what you can and can't spend it on.
Oh, sorry.
For the student progress monitoring, you mentioned that iReady is going to move to map for reading, and then, oh, sorry, next year, reading will be assessed using map,
Map, yeah.
and then math will be monitored using iReady.
Already, and then.
It will also have map and map.
Because
Yeah.
they're
Yeah,
integrated.
you
Or-
can do
Mhm.
separate, but I think that, especially because this next thing where we talk about how we understand success is we're gonna be able to, we have to be able to say, hey, our kids were at point A, they went to point B, and now they're at point C.
Mhm.
And this just gives us a way to show that growth in there, and it will actually break out groups by demographics for us, and so that's really helpful too, because they will be looking at our different focal groups. You know, are we trying to, help target kids that are English language learners? Are we trying to look at our special education students? Are we trying to look at just demographics? And so it will be able to do that. It will be able to pull that data and let us know. It doesn't say specific names, but they'll just say, your kids, your ELD kids, they showed a percentage of growth, or they didn't show a percentage of growth. So we have to be able to, prove that we're making progress in that. So one of the things that we use is Forefront, which is just a computer program that we can put lots of assessments in, and then it's pretty easy to like show growth with kids or see where they're at.
Okay,
It's
so
very visual.
do I understand that you're using both in a sense from
So-
iReady, and I guess I'm just trying to understand. how
Yeah,
the-
so the
programs work.
iReady math, and I don't know how long does that take to, do you guys?
It depends.
Depends on the student.
Yeah.
Usually a day or two.
Okay,
You know,
and
a
this
couple of
one is
hours
about
for
a
a half-
40,
an hour and a
45-minute test. What it does that's a little bit different is when it doesn't allow kids to go too fast, which I've heard iReady, you can go much
as
faster on the
fast as-
It'll
iReady
flag
test.
you, but.
Yeah, so this one actually will slow kids down and actually will flag the teacher and say, oh, so-and-so is like answered this many questions in this many minutes, and you need to, and it will actually sometimes stop them as well. So, because you want to know what they know, not their mindset of getting out to recess or something, you know what I'm saying? Being done. So we'll
Okay,
be
thank you.
looking at our growth, we'll have growth targets, which the state of Oregon provides that for us. Is that right, Teresa?
Actually, those are set, and actually they are currently set for the next several years through this grant. And so typically you would meet, the district would have a team, and ODE would have members there, and they would co-develop those. And so Mosier falls under North Wasco's longitudinal performance growth targets.
And then the local optional metrics, that would be kind of our map testing. Right?
That would be if you chose to add your local optional metrics to measure growth. You can add those to the longitudinal performance growth targets, or you could just do that on your own without adding that extra involvement of ODE in that process.
And then the next side, the longitudinal performance growth targets, that just kind of tells you, and I think that Teresa just kind of
Mhm.
did that. So they're looking at third grade reading proficiency, regular attendance rates, which is, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, yes. Regular attenders are students that are present 90% of the days that they're enrolled.
And that is one of our, that's one of our goals, and that's one of the projects that Jen's going to be working on, is how to increase attendance, which is one of the harder things to do, because we don't, we don't have, it's hard for us to, to get kids into school. But there are lots of different ways, and Teresa's going to help us with that, right?
Absolutely.
Be knocking on doors.
Yeah. And then how do we understand success for, us as a school? And that students are reading proficiently by grade 3. Many research will tell you that if you can get kids reading by grade 3, success for your overall for everything else just kind of falls into that. Students feeling supported and safe in our school. That is one of those things that we're going to be looking at some different, I know there's some different surveys to take that kids would take at the beginning and the middle of the end of the year. I'm used to Panorama. It's very expensive. So we're trying to look into some cheaper options for, and that would be a survey that would go out to students, it would go out to staff, and it would go out to families about how they're feeling. And then, you kind of look at that data over the school year. Students have access to after school and enrichment activities. So we want to make sure that we have lots of clubs going on. We have lots of field trips and all of those, performances. We have presentations that come into the school. Students have an opportunity to participate in summer learning. I believe right now in the legislature, they have a bill out there to give us some money for summer learning. It's like they always wait so late to do this. And so we actually put some money in from the SAIA grant to fund the last 2 weeks, because you have to do at least 2 weeks to provide some summer camps and summer learning, and also our kindergarten camp. So that will be paid through this. And then what happens next? So we're presenting here, it'll get presented at the North Wasco. We'll submit to ODE. They'll look it over. The good news is she kind of looked ours over a little bit today. She is also, Karen at ODE is also a little confused about some of the codes, but she said that she'd look at those for us. We think we have them. Teresa and I and Jen kind of went through the codes. They will then give us a review. And then what is that? I don't know what that orange one is. Well,
The QUALP is the review process. So once the applications are submitted to the state, there's a committee, a group that reviews each application to make sure that it meets all of the requirements.
Right. And Teresa, you've done that before, right?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why she was a great person to help us.
Yeah.
And then co-development, and then they'll get our grant agreements out, we'll sign those. And then all of our money goes to North Wasco. When we're ready for it, we ask for it, we invoice them, and then they send us the money. We just got our check for the early literacy grant for this year. So that just came in the mail. I don't know. Teresa, anything to add to this?
No, that was pretty thorough. Yeah, any questions that I can help with?
Are we looking for board approval tonight?
You don't actually have to approve it because
Okay.
that's correct. I don't think, so what I understand is they really only need it to go through the North Wasco board. This is really, I think that you need to be aware of what we're doing, so that you're on board with how we're spending the money. So if you have any questions about how we're spending the money, this would be a great time to let us know before we submit. But the approval really, like I said, I think we'll have like 2 or 3 slides that will be on the North Wasco. They're the ones that actually have to approve. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, North Wasco with their application, they will include their board meeting minutes that includes the approval by their board.
Right, and we don't have to, so that's one of the requirements is you have to have board approved minutes that get submitted, and so it will be their minutes, not ours, that have to be submitted, so. Okay, yeah, Marie's really happy about that. I know. I think the first year they did this, they told us all about this in December and then wanted December meeting, like the minutes were just crazy to try to turn around the minutes that quickly. So I think they're getting better. I think they understand they've taken away, she told me that they have taken away some of the requirements of the reporting. to streamline a little bit, for us. And I told her that would be CAR and ODE and that we appreciated that, so.
Yeah, there was a Q3 report that would have been due April 30th, report on the existing integrated plan. And they went ahead and released that knowing that teams in districts were really busy preparing this application. So
Yeah, that was a nice surprise.
mhm.
Any other questions? All right. Thanks, Teresa, for
Okay.
joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
That brings us to item number 6, our business manager report.
Yeah, and I was looking, I had asked Veronica to do kind of a little summary of because we went through it together, a little summary of it, but I don't see that she has done that. We just talked about it yesterday, so that could be probably it. She assured me yesterday we're in great shape. And so that made me feel good. I'm looking for the board financials. She continues to try to kind of break out things a little bit without breaking out stuff too much. So the March is the budget details on there. The budget detail has a lot of stuff on it. We were talking about looking at the budget summary. Can you bring that one up? So the budget summary just kind of tells you percentages, and I did write down what everything meant. When we were talking, so student fees, that's our preschool. So obviously we've overestimated the preschool for this year. And the good news is we are when we're doing the budget for next year, we're more realistic. So and we had no idea what it was going to be. Earning on investments, that is the LGIP account. We have another Fidelity account, so that's just the accounts that we have. We have budgeted for the same. I'm a little worried if we have to take out money for the DOE, for that work. We're gonna have lower investment at that point. So just keep that in mind. Food service is, I was like, what is this? So it used to be when people like students paid for their meals, that's why this was there. And so it was way over budgeted. Because right now we just have kids getting milk. Every once in a while, we have a parent that comes in. Yeah, and so it's not real. So you're gonna see that at a different spot.
So just budget wise, if we're watching the stability in the market and it going up and down quite a bit. If we're on an uptime and we know money's gonna be taken out sometime soon, it'll be better to take it out on the uptime than it would be on the downtime. So if we see the market
Okay.
fluctuate up, you'll have to
Which
take
day?
it, exactly. But if it's possible to
Okay.
time
Okay,
it that
to
way.
take it out. All right.
When it's higher,
Okay.
it'll be less detrimental to our overall investment.
Yeah, Veronica is kind of watching that for us, so. The extracurricular activities, that's clubs that we have. And so we're down to our last trimester of clubs, and so we're gonna be pretty on budget for that. The other revenue from a local source, now that number looks kind of wacky, and that's because that's our ESSER funds that you're looking at, and so those are not gonna be in there next time. And then revenue from state source, that is our school fund that we get from the state. And the interfund transfers, what did she tell me? That's not something that we normally do, and so she had just put it in there, and we don't normally use that, so. And then if you look at salaries, we should be at 75%, so we're just a little bit over on salaries. The payroll costs, those are a little bit higher than expected. Contract services, that's Veronica, Sarah, anything that we're contracting for. Supplies and materials, way over on that. But that includes all of the supplies that we have for the preschool, and the preschool, we spent some money on the preschool. And so that's in the supplies, and they are well, they had to get lockers and mats and tables and toys and all of those things. And so that's in that budget right now. And I'll talk a little bit about the preschool later. Other objects is like insurances and dues and fees. That is going to go up quite a bit next year. I think she said 18%. And then capital outlay, that's, you know, all the work that we've been doing on the building, and so that's pretty much out of, you know, out of line. But there's a lot of things there's a lot of deferred maintenance on this building. And so we have been spending that. We have a facility committee we're gonna work on prioritizing that. Dawn is busy getting quotes so that we'll have a better, when we do the budget, we'll have a better idea of like, here's the projects, this is what we're spending it on. Tiffany's on that committee, Dan's on that committee, yeah. And then the other uses of fund, she told me what that was, it was, I mean, some of those are just kind of like leftover from last year. What she did tell me is that, hold on just a second, that we're about $300,000 positive. So we're good this year because we had some leftover last year. We had some ESSER funds that got stuck, so we had spent that, we got in there. So she thinks that we're very solid right now, so she didn't really have any worries about that. But
I
there
can't.
might be she is worried about the DOE grant, that we're gonna have to start pulling money out for that. Because those bills are gonna start coming in.
And we were at a $430,000 shortfall. That was the big one, right? Based on enrollment? Is that,
Well,
what is
we're
that?
still waiting for that because we're gonna get where they reconcile it. And so for the 23-24 school year, somebody had said, oh, we're gonna be 180 kids. We were 150. And so we'll get dinged for that. But this year we said 160. So this year we might have to move some money. But I actually won't have to move money because she feels like we're pretty good. But just keeping that in mind, that there's gonna be about a $300 correction, and that's why this.
$1,000.
Huh? 300,000, yeah, 300,000. So that's why, so the state school fund, if you look at that, when I show you the budget is less for state school fund because the North Wasco is taking that into consideration, and so it looks like we're gonna get less money next year than we had this year. No, I shouldn't say that, per student, so it will be more than 21, I think it's like 23, like 2,000.
We had some kind of signed agreement with them. I don't know what the term of that agreement was.
Yeah, the problem is just the ADM, like what we
It's just the ADM
overestimated.
adjustment.
Yeah.
My understanding was that it was a 2-year cycle, so if we undercount this year or overcount, we don't really see the effects of that for 2 budget cycles.
Yeah, but I think it was so it's from last year, so.
That will affect next year,
Mhm.
okay, so we're 2 years, okay.
Yeah, so, but the
Yeah.
good news is, moving forward for the next 2 years, like we said, 160 kids this year, and we've been pretty steady at above, we've been kind of going back between 165 and 170, it just kind of bounces depending on kids coming and going. And then next year, we also have it down for 165. We went a little bit conservative. But when I show you the numbers for next year, we should be at least at 170, probably a little bit more. So we're on a good path.
Michelle, could you just explain why there's 30,000, why the payroll difference, like why we're over 30? Is it because of more hires that we've made this year or what?
Probably, yeah. Yes, I think that they have, so the other thing that's not really paying for itself right now, and you'll see that in the nutritional services in the cafeteria. We're $9,000 in the hole, and that doesn't even count for there are no staff being involved in that. So really, the staffing for the cafeteria we're just not there as far as generating enough money to support that, so. We're working on that, but there was that transition it went through North Wasco and came through us, and so that's been a slow transition, so.
You have an idea of why we're not?
I don't know, I don't know if I look at the budget from before, because, I keep hearing, we hear it all the time, we don't have enough staff, there's a lot of staff down there, so. You're in there,
Yeah,
there's more
but-
staff than there has been, because I keep
Yeah.
hearing there's not enough staff. We currently hired a temporary person, which I'm gonna talk about in that, and it was just because, Richard's having a hard time getting his production records done. There's a lot that goes, we're not just serving food down there. We've got to count how many kids have it. We got to look at what they've taken. there's a lot of reporting that has to happen with that. And so there was not enough time to do all of that.
Mhm.
And so we hired a temporary employee, another Anna, because we like to duplicate our names a lot. We have an Anna and an Anna. And she is wearing a variety of hats right now. So she's working in the cafeteria, in the kitchen area. She's supporting the preschool because the preschool's up to 13. So I had to do something to get them their lunches and their breaks. And then she's also supporting recess because we have had some real significant high needs at recess. And so more people out there, I think, are gonna keep us. People will want to keep coming here if we're able to, you know, to make sure that we're addressing those issues out there, so. Yes.
Go ahead.
Uh-oh. Tag
I
your-
raised my hand this time instead of
Okay.
speaking. Feel free.
I was just gonna piggyback off of Tiffany and ask if maybe the payroll costs increased due to the PERS, if that had.
Not yet, but we're gonna
Not
get hit
yet.
with that. And the good news is,
Okay.
and the good news is, we already talked about that. I am your only tier 1 employee, so that's really good news for everybody. Because the places that are getting hit, all the districts that are getting hit hard, it's because they have tier 1 and tier 2 people, and that's where the cost comes in. If you're Aspra, what is that called? Yeah, it's got a weird name.
It is like
Tier 3.
OSPRS or something.
Yeah,
but
something
I'm
like that. And so that's tier 3 to be, you know, but that is actually a lot more self-funding, but you still have a lot of people in the system that are tier 1 until tier 2, although tier 1, I'm sure it's got to be dropping off at some point. And then a lot of tier 2s are out there, and those are, I think, are really driving up the PERS cost because it's like part of it's unfunded of some sort. So I still don't understand PERS.
Yeah, I'm still trying to understand.
I
that.
just got into PERS, so I can go through and look at PERS and see where we're at. Sarah Reeves, the person that's doing our payroll, she is immersing herself in PERS, so she understands it better too, so.
I will say, I've recalled in the past when we've like pretty consistently been under on payroll, and I think that was because we had a fair amount of turnover, particularly in the TAs, and like when you have a vacancy, you're not paying that person. When you take someone new on, it takes a while till they get full benefits, and so they're cheaper. I don't understand all of the pieces of that, but I also think it speaks to like potentially your ability to retain staff, and that we haven't had that amount of turnover, and I'm not in the building and haven't, you know. I
We have
don't know.
not, yeah, and
But-
we just put out because you guys approved contracts for next year, and every single person's accepted to come back, so that's really positive. I do also want to say that contract services, that 240,000, that is sub pay in there as well. I just remembered that, so. We have had, yeah, and we've had some significant, you know, use of a sub, so.
It'd be interesting to know just utilization rate of the cafeteria for the students' point of view, year over year, like, do we have a drop off in? Cause do we make more if they use more, or is it just, it's a set cost no matter how many students come in and? they're not
Well,
really
I
paying
think
for it.
there's lots to be said, and I don't understand the kitchen as much, but I mean, you have the cost of food, like,
Mhm.
and that definitely is going to going up.
Mhm.
We have a lot more kids using that, and I think I think Dawn does a really good job. She's always looking at grants, so like, oh, I got, you know, this grant money for these. I don't know, there's kiwis down there right now that, you know, we have to do.
Special, so it's a grant that to introduce kids to foods they wouldn't normally get to
Normally
eat.
So,
Yeah, yeah, which has been really.
Yeah, it's
cool.
been, it's been
Yeah.
interesting for the kids to have that, but she's constantly looking at that. We also bought a brand new oven because the oven wasn't working, so we did have some. And again, I just want to like say, Dawn is looking really, she's always like, look, I have a grant, like, she's trying to get grants and stuff. And so I think hopefully the next year is us kind of stabilizing the kitchen a little bit more.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And I do
because-
know that once we went to no charge for lunches,
Mhm.
the amount of kids eating
That
increased.
definitely
Okay.
increased.
And so,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
interesting to see.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, so there. And then, so if you look at the nutritional services, which is that next PDF down, we're in the hole, but as Veronica reminded me that that's just food costs. There is no salary in that, so. Yeah, I know. And I think like that's a growing issue for us because we did move it away from North Wasco. We're now trying to do it. I'm starting to see more checks come in from ODE, it's, $8,000 here, $6,000 here, so
Mm.
hopefully we'll get better at that, capturing that. And then the preschool is our other little drain. I think that you all had a vision to make sure that we had a preschool, and we made a commitment to do that. And so this was definitely a year that, was cost us to have the preschool, but it's growing. And again, later I'm going to tell you, but well, I can tell you right now, it's like Becca and I just turned in the application for the preschool promise. We've asked for 5 slots. My understanding is, you get paid, I think it's $2,000 for each kid for each slot a month. And then the following year, it's $1,000, which is more than we have right now. Whether or not you fill those slots, it depends on, who's coming and if they meet the income guidelines. And my understanding, if you have 5 slots, and let's say it's a $50,000 income and 3 people meet that this person makes 60,000, but you still have open slots, they actually move the scale up, so.
And they can also place people here with those spots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then, but there is also a lot more hoop, it's like anything, any money comes with a little bit of hoop jumping, so. But Becca is a great person to do that. And so if you look at this, statement of financial position, we still have a very healthy, we're almost at 3 million, so. I would say that other school, like if you think about our operating budget versus what you have in the bank. Most people would like to carry, end with 5 to, I think it's 12% or something like that, we're very healthy, but we're also gonna be spending some money. So. Any questions? The goal is next month. I've asked Veronica kind of to do just a brief overview of where we are, because she can do that a little bit better. And she was gonna do it, but we also had a couple other things come up today, so. They're trying to get the audit done. So, and it does seem like we're having a little bit more, I need this, like, it was very quiet for a while, but now it's like, they're having a lot of, what they're needing. So they're trying to wait for a couple of waiting on financial things. They're asking for, I had to send something off to the lawyers. They're just starting to all of a sudden ask for things again. So I think that's a good sign. Any other questions?
I have a question. When we are over on a certain line item, where does the overage come from? Where do we pull the money from?
We
if
can
it
do a
wasn't-
transfer from another spot, so, and we might have to transfer money, but like currently. And I'll have to have Veronica, I'll ask her to, and I'll send that off to you, but Veronica did not have any concerns. She said because we had money left over, like 300,000, and then there was another 100,000 from somewhere. She's like, you guys, like, she felt very good about the position. Because I'm like, am I spending too much money? And she's like, no, you're good, you're okay. But again, I think for many years, the board was very
Conservative.
conservative. That's a great way, but yeah, very tight.
conservative, Yeah.
Very, and which is nice, but except for at some point, I've always been told you need to spend the money on the kids. Yeah, but okay.
That rolled in.
I know that, yeah. I know. Well, I know.
Responsible.
I know, but
It's good. There, let's spend it.
I know, you didn't spend your money on the kids that you currently have in here.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that the kids have what they need. We want, and to do that, we need to make sure the teachers have what they need so that they can support the students in that, so.
Yeah, I would say just over the time I've been on the board, I don't know how long it's been, but our reserves have grown steadily over that time. So when I first started, they were around 2 million. So we're $750,000 more than we were.
Yeah,
So
well,
we're doing all right. We can continue to spend some and fix the things that have been neglected over time.
yeah, I mean, if you think about the fact that, that building next door, the preschool building is a very usable space at this point, very usable. The hope is to spend some money on the other side of this building so
Yeah.
that we have a very usable space. Like, you can't go wrong. And if you're putting, of course, I did mention to Brent something about putting 40,000 into that and he laughed at me. So, Because evidently, the electricity to it might be a little bit expensive, but
Mhm.
you're not gonna be able to build a building for, even if we have to put 60 or 70 bucks up. You're not gonna be able
Yeah,
to
it
put
is
it,
what it is.
yeah,
The door's gonna cost, if you want it to look good, and it's the
Yeah.
first thing people see when they come in.
yeah.
I think having it look good and having people buys this.
Don't think the pink
a
doors are
room-
good.
Yeah, but a room completely dedicated to music is,
Yeah.
that's a big statement.
Yeah, and you know, it's, I mean, Nathan's done an amazing job with the program. And they are in a very tight space down there. And Mary Ellen would appreciate if they were somewhere, because she gets to hear everything they're doing, so, yeah, and she loves it, I know.
Go ahead, Marie.
Yeah, and I think just while we're talking about music programs, I think, it's very much in line with, success of children and outcomes. I mean,
But,
and
and,
emotional well-being,
Right.
wellness, so
Yeah.
it's.
and being a little over on the salaries, I mean, that wasn't really, I mean, we also added a music teacher last year,
Yeah.
so. He's, yeah.
Do we have anticipated areas of growth? Like, I know there's been a little bit of murmurs about hiring someone to do art, for example. Or, we created the social emotional learning position, we created the music teacher position, or you did, like, do you have a sense for, like what that, are we basically just staying the same for next year, or is there any kind of moving around or shifting or additions?
Well, we're
the
just,
middle
yeah, we're
school.
adding a middle school.
Middle school teacher,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, and that's gonna make our lives easier. Because right now, we have this one rotation that we're always constantly scrambling. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do with it? We are, for the end of the school year, bringing in somebody that we're just like not actually hiring, we're just using them as, like, I'm just hiring them through ESS or substitute services. To come in and do, she will do a couple of days, or actually 3 days of science for the middle schoolers. If you've looked at our science scores, at first somebody said, have you checked with Melina? Melina's like, yeah. We
She's
could use some
happy.
additional, like, they're gonna get double science for a little while. And that's okay, and they could help out with the garden, we talked about them doing some like helping out with the garden. And then one of the help, so. We are kind of moving out of our owl health, it's had some challenges. We'll say challenges, and so tomorrow will be the last day for that, and then we're just gonna move on to, more like the nutrition, first aid, kind of get that help, check some more standards off for help, so, and Christine will be doing that for the middle school.
Is that the same person who's doing the science?
Cool. Yeah, she actually came to us with a proposal for next year, and we're like, hey, let's just try this out this year to see, like,
Yeah.
we wanna see what it looks like, and we have, 8 weeks of school left to see what it
Yeah.
looks like, and.
She's
you-
subbed for us and
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
And she is a middle school teacher, so that's really
She
helpful.
can really handle it.
Anything
Can
like,
you share her whole name?
Christina Olvera, I think it's Olvera, I think it's Olibera. So, Christine. She works at the coffee shop sometimes.
Mhm.
Christine,
think she
yeah,
does.
she does, yeah.
She's very.
Savannah said, oh,
Very
Christine.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway, she has taught a lot in Portland, and she was just very interested in, being here. We also are bringing in a couple of artists, and just to try to, we have one that's gonna come on Thursday, just to see if it's a good fit for middle school, because everybody's like, oh yeah, I can teach art, and then they get to our middle
And
schoolers.
they're like, oh, good.
And they're like, "Ugh," yeah, so it's, and we don't want it to be, yeah, we don't want it to be more work for us, and we want them to be engaged in what they're doing,
Mhm.
so, and that's, you gotta find the right fit, you gotta be the right fit, so.
Have you given any thought to, and not to get us too far onto tangents, but also at one point we had, and I can't remember if he was volunteer or if he was staff, but someone that worked on Spanish language with our kids.
Oh, yeah.
And that was
Joe.
really
Joe.
great.
Yeah, and I think for next year for our middle school, my hope is, and we have Margaret here. And she certainly could teach I would like the kids that, that Spanish is not their language, to have the opportunity to, like, we're gonna do some elective type things that, and that could be an elective for kids.
Oh, that's great to hear.
I know, I would, I mean, I would like to take it as well, you know,
Yeah.
is to give the kids the opportunity. Because our kids should have some language before they get to high school, when they're actually gonna be required to have it.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
yeah, and then, you know, it's not something we wanna do for everybody, because we have a lot of kids that already speak Spanish, so that would.
And I don't know enough about the teaching philosophy on that, but I could imagine as well that that's an opportunity for some kids to feel a really high level of success. Like maybe who
Yeah.
haven't worked on written Spanish, but only oral Spanish. And also just for sort of a
Mhm.
flipping of that dynamic
Yeah.
of like you're learning and I'm teaching.
Mhm.
And also a space where there's more discussion about Latino culture, you know, for our students that, you know, may not just feel as visible in the school.
Right, and I think like I look at Mid Valley and stuff, like I look at some of the stuff that they do and bringing that in. I ran into one lady, she was like, oh, I'd love to come out to Mosier, and so like bringing more of the cultural stuff in would be great. So.
Any more questions on the business manager report? All right, we do not have a treasurer's report tonight, which brings us to item number 8, our MTA report. And our reps, welcome. Nice to have you in the room.
It's nice to be in the room. In person.
Yes. We have a couple of reports from different teachers. Tonight, 4-5 has been learning about all things salmon. They've been doing various art projects, life cycles, and field trips to the riverfront to explore what they know about salmon. They have a hatchery employee coming in May for lessons on watershed and adaptations. And students enjoyed an exciting overnight trip to OMSI. We're incredibly thankful to MCS for making this possible and all the wonderful parent volunteers for helping. Students have been writing literary essays based on stories they've read in class. They're using the new Lucy Calkins writing curriculum and producing beautiful work. In science, students are learning about magnets, gravity, and state properties of matter. Students are getting to explore and create fun STEM projects, as well as experience hands-on activities. They're having a great start to the spring and look forward to seeing what the rest of the year and where it takes us. Primary students are still studying rivers and some of the animals who call rivers home. Their big focus is beavers. They're learning about clocks and math and have a fun garden center for kids to play with seeds and plants.
For second and third, we're beginning an animal research project, which will lead into paragraph writing. We will be learning how to determine importance of information from details and paraphrasing. This will be a good refresher for our third graders, especially as they head into state testing. We're looking forward to our field trip on May 13th to continue to learn about our environment. We'll be down at the Nicholas Boat Works in Hood River, and that will be led by a group there. For math, third grade is diving into fractions, and second grade is subtracting 3-digit numbers with regrouping. And in science, we're head on into learning about erosion, land erosion, water erosion. And as the kids noticed today, that the hillside out here is eroding, and they have some possible solutions for that erosion.
They're working
So,
on a solution.
yes.
and, yep, coming up
Yeah.
with some great
So-
solutions and how we could take care of that.
So, yeah.
But it's really cool to see those connections.
Yep. Great sounds at work.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions for MTA reps? I'll add that the LNG trip, I think for parents who aren't aware, is a peek into how hard your jobs are. And how much energy it takes to try and manage the kids and the number of kids, and they all have their own ideas and where they want to go, what they want to do, so get them to come together. And in the classroom, I have a better picture now.
And thank you for being there.
Yeah.
Welcome. Anytime to come into the classrooms. So,
Yeah, come on in.
we'd love to have you.
It was nice to hear today that our kids were very proud to be from Mosier and that they were representing. I don't know if you noticed that, Dan, but That's what I heard from one of the
Yeah,
teachers.
They
that
said that'll,
they were representing and that there were other kids that weren't necessarily.
they listened to
representing their
Mr.
school.
Duncan.
All them on the bus
That's
when they were going.
That's
And they
that's
repeated
pretty
that.
awesome that they took that and actually followed through with it, right?
Because there were
Yeah.
students from the Dalles
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
And another school, I forgot the other one,
Okay.
yes,
But
and
Jen was very proud of how.
I
she
was
said our
very
kids
proud.
Were very well behaved.
yeah,
Great.
they really were,
Mhm.
and when
They
it was time to
represented.
sleep, our kids
love
did
that.
really well.
For the most part.
For the most
For the
part.
most-
Yes, well, they are kids.
Dan lost
They're
a
right
bet.
to the occasion.
That was
You love
funny.
that.
Oh, we bet on how long it would take them to settle down. I
You
have
said-
my kids in mind.
You said 5 minutes.
Oh.
It was
Right, like
about-
3 hours,
Yeah.
1 o'clock in the morning.
You get
Well,
that
not a
late,
lot of
yeah,
sleep.
but-
No, it was not.
I'll give this note again. I think I've given it before, but I love these updates and the details are just so wonderful. And
Mhm.
I wish that there was a way to more regularly for each of my kids in their classes, just have a sense of what you're learning about, because so often it connects to something in our lives. Like I'm like, oh, someone's learning about beavers. Like I know some beaver experts and I know some beaver stuff, so and that, that must happen for other parents who are not listening to these board meetings. And anyone not listening, I don't blame you at all. But just that we have in the past had teacher newsletters that went out and emails, and we haven't done that. And I don't know, that also seemed like it was very regular and maybe a big burden on the teachers, and maybe there's a middle ground, but it would be great to find a way to just have a
Last
sense of
year-
what you guys are working
Yeah,
on.
I would say like, sometimes I think an email is, I know newsletters are horrible. Because I do it, but sometimes I have, we are kind of like, I would encourage just a quick email about what things are happening,
Yeah,
because
and
I think.
some of us really try hard to do
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Well, I've
Maybe
seen
not
the newsletter
are
from
as-
you.
as good to
Successful.
do it this year. It's been a little rough, but
Rough, yeah.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
But-
really try to
Yeah.
send out as much as.
Yeah.
And last year, what I tried to do was a newsletter each month where each teacher would have their own little section and they could put in like what's been happening in their class and.
It's just something.
It's not a criticism,
No.
it's just sort of feedback that like, when I hear this
Mhm.
stuff, I get really excited, and then I want other parents to also have that
Yeah.
information, and I'm not
Yeah.
confident that they're hearing it at the board meeting, so
Mhm.
how else can we
Mhm.
share it out?
Probably not.
Yeah, and it's like, that's why I was like saying, like, sometimes an email is a little bit better than, because sometimes people just don't read the newsletters, and I know you have a beautiful newsletter, because I saw
Right.
Lisa stealing part of it.
Still good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and Sarah Grace used to do one. Do you still do yours, Sarah Grace?
Yeah, I send one out at just a short little 1 or 2 page newsletter on Mondays.
Goes to every week.
Yeah,
then-
and I know
That's good.
Kinder, I think
Well, I know, I see a lot on Parent Square from
Yes.
kindergarten to first grade, so
Yeah.
they send a lot on Parent Square.
But thank you for that.
Yeah,
input.
I think
It's great.
yeah, agreed,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, that takes us to item number 9, our ED report.
Yeah, and I sent that out just so you can kind of get a gist of everything. So current enrollment is 168. I believe that's going up on Monday to 169. So we have a student, oh yeah, Lisa's very excited about a student coming back to us. Anyway, and as of today, we have 13 pre-K students. We are not going to accept any more pre-K students at this point. It's a lot, and when you have somebody come in within the last 8 weeks of school, it's just like I asked Becca what she felt, and so when I said today, because we did have somebody else that wanted to bring a kid in, and I said we told them no, and she said thank you. And so I think when we can look forward to planning for next year, that is probably going to mean adding another half person in there just to make sure that it is well, talk about your physical work. That's a lot. It's a lot.
is that what you're anticipating next year as well as 13, or what's the number?
No,
that
I
we
think we're
anticipate?
probably gonna be up higher. So I would say we'd be 15 to 20. So we're gonna cap it at 20.
Which
so.
is exciting.
And where did we land on for a rate?
So
We
we
have some talk about that
850, so it's $850 for 5 days a week.
per month.
Per month, yeah, per month. And I would say that we've had fairly good success with everybody. I mean, my grandkids go to Roots and it's $1,400 a month for 4 days.
Mhm.
So it's expensive. Well, you had kids that went there too, so like getting a raise.
Yeah.
You're just gonna have to go.
It is.
And then
They're
it's
all
like
school.
let's see, it's 525, I think, for 3 days, and I think, I could be wrong. I can't remember. And we're gonna, one of the things is, because it did feel like we kind of threw the preschool together. And so Becca's gonna have some time this summer we're gonna have a handbook for preschool. We're gonna have kind of a handbook for our parents, so they understand that you pay at the beginning of the month for the month. It's not at the end of the month, and that, because that's how all preschools operate. And just some little, things. We are also going to have to be doing, if we get preschool promise, there's some more assessments that we have to do for kids. And there might be some curriculum that we need to buy. So Becca makes most of her curriculum and it's lovely, but, when the state gets involved, they're gonna want a little bit more formal, and so she's looking into some of that. We're also looking at helping, Anna get, and Becca's gonna do that. They call it, there's some sort of step thing that they have that she's like, Becca's on step 10, that's what you wanna be, and getting Anna up on those steps, and it's an online program, and so she was gonna help her with that, so.
For pre-K instruction.
Yeah. Application to attend, and so we had one that was very excited about accepting. I'm like, wait, that's tomorrow. Anyway, so we have 10 kindergartners that have applied to attend, and then we have grade 1, we have 4, grade 3, 3, grade 4, 1, grade 4, 5, 2, and then 6th grade 3, and then 8th grade 1. The middle school is gonna get bigger because we have, how many is it? I have to look back, sorry. I have it on my.
How many?
Because we
Because the
have
5.
24 fifth graders that are moving over, and so that's gonna increase the size of that.
Has anyone polled those parents to see if those kids are actually moving over? Because middle school is a time when some families
Yeah.
do jump to, there's a lot of private options now, and then there's also, some people do.
And so we are gonna do online registration starting in mid-May. So we'll know those numbers a little bit more when we go in there. We had kindergarten kickoff. It was a success. This whole place was packed. We had lots of families. We have a lot of families that are coming, that live in Mosier, that are attending. I think there's 11 or 12 families that are here. So our kindergarten numbers are nice and solid this year. Daphne presented information how to register. Ms. Johnson had a presentation on what a day looked like. Anna and Margaret translated for our families, helped them with complete the registrations. We had 8 residents that actually completed registration that night, that is the whole point of it, is to get them registered, because kindergarten and anybody new has to do a paper registration, and then after that, it's all online. We project about 22 kindergartners for next year. We did submit the preschool promise. I just did a link in case you want to read more about that. And then I passed there's a packet for champions. They have a contract with North Wasco to do after-school care. I did do a quick little survey from parents. First survey I did, I got 3 people that responded. Second survey, I met 15 that responded. There's not a huge hoping of having preschool, having after school care, but there's enough that they feel okay with it. I think the number is, I have it written down just a second. And they're pretty affordable for the most part. They also will, they do after school care. They'll do it as late as 6, but most families don't want it till after 5, so they might have it a little bit less than that. They also will do in-service days, and also they will do like winter break and spring break. They would also have that. They like to hire people that currently work at the school. So our EAs would be there, and then they like to hire local. I worry about hiring because I think that's always a tough thing to do. But they think they can do it, so I'm good with that. The responses we had 16 responses, so we must have another one today. I just said, would your family be interested in using that? 6 said maybe, 4 said no, 6 said yes. And then what time would be best? And most of them were, 3 people said 3 p.m. We had 1 for 5, 4 for 4, and then 3 for 5:30. So they might go to 6 o'clock. And then would they be interested in all day care when school's not in session? 5 said maybe, 5 said yes, and 6 said no. And then most of the age range was 5 to 10. There's not any 11 or 12-year-olds that are gonna come. And then this is the one that kind of surprised me a little bit is, I said, where would you like to have the care? They wanted it Mosier. So that's because that could also be an option for us, is that they would go home after school's out and go to one of the North Wasco locations, but they want to have it here. I've talked to Becca, and more than likely we would probably use the preschool space. And that would be easy. They would then have access to there's bathrooms there. They have access to that. They do a lot. You can see all the different things that they have. My grandson did it for a little while. The only reason they stopped doing it because he has a lot of other activities that he's doing. So, but Stephanie was very pleased with it. Hood River uses it. I believe White Salmon's using it, and now North Wasco's gonna use it. So it's a national company.
It's my understanding, I know some people who use it and it's really helpful when you get in a bind and you can't.
Yeah, drop in. You can
Yeah.
drop in.
You can drop in, so it helps out a lot when there's a lot going on in life.
So, I mean, I think we,
Is there a cost associated with it to the school?
no, other than I think there is a little bit of cost, like we have to provide a space. And then we have to provide a space for like their stuff. And so, because they have a lot of stuff that comes with them. And so, I don't think there's a cost for us, but I'm gonna go and check that too.
So maybe there's another storage container.
There might be another storage container out there. Hey, we're trying out to see what a storage container is like out there.
Yeah.
Like a good place for art mural.
Yeah, yeah. All right, curriculum.
Go ahead, Marie.
I just wonder what the best way would be to communicate with parents what the cost associated is, just so they can start thinking about.
I could certainly put this proposal on the website and we could put a link to it,
Mhm.
so, or send it out. I can send it out too. Through Parent Quest.
Yeah, or maybe like it was mentioned earlier, skate night's always a good note to get info.
Yeah, that's
out.
coming on
We
Thursday.
could have some
Yeah.
flyers,
Yeah.
just so.
And I certainly could just reach out to the people that said they wanted it and make sure that they have a copy, the people that responded to the survey. So
Right.
I'll figure out something.
Okay. Am I up?
Yep.
Okay, so we are all set to start state testing. We're gonna start small group next week, and then we will start 3rd through 8th. 3rd through 8th grade are gonna start their ELA state testing the last week of this month. Then we'll move on to math. And middle school is gonna do math a little bit later. We want to try to give them as much time as possible to get through the curriculum. And then we're gonna move science a little bit later. And as Michelle said, we had hired Christy to do additional science because we haven't had consistent science teachers in middle school for a few years now. So the kids have a lot of gaps. So we're gonna try to address those gaps through having Christy come in and teach science. And we're hoping that she'll be outside as well doing that. So do anyone have any questions about state testing?
How much time is actually spent on testing? Is it like we have a day of testing or?
So
like
the state, so testing has really, since it started, and even since I've been here, this is my 7th year, they've really shortened all of the tests. And actually COVID is kind of when they really
They
shortened them.
pretty much cut in half.
Yeah, they cut them in half, so they're a lot shorter. So there's 2 different, so for ELA and both for math, there's what's called the CAT, which is all the multiple choice, and then there's a performance task, which is longer. Like for ELA, they have to write an essay. For math, it might be a longer problem they have to work through. And it usually, for most kids, I think it would takes about 2 days to finish each part. And some kids are a little faster and some kids take even longer. 3rd grade's probably yeah, a little longer, but
When
from
you
like.
say like 3 days, you don't mean like all day, so
No, no,
like.
no,
so
no,
like-
No, so we
you'll do
test,
testing
yes.
for an
So what
hour,
we
3 days
do-
in a row.
So what we do, and I'm not gonna count third grade is a little different, so starting 4th through 8th, they'll test for an hour in the morning. We always try to test in the morning because kids are much more alert and able to focus, so we'll test for an hour. They get a 15-minute break and we provide snacks for that break, and then they go back in and they'll test for anywhere from another 45 minutes to another hour, and that's done for that day. Kathy Mann does small group, and that she usually has those kids testing for about a month because some are a lot slower and they just take a little bit longer. But in general, we do anywhere from an hour to a 2-hour session with a break in between. I think third grade does an hour.
We just do.
An hour each day. Yep. Yeah, and we also give the kids gum because it helps them concentrate. So when we're testing, they're allowed to chew gum. So it's kind of.
Yeah, my gum budget has really gone up.
Yeah.
Item, we get it. It's like drinking.
And it really it makes a difference
Regularly.
for focus. Yeah, I'll cover mine. Yeah. So any questions other than that? Good question. They'll start buzzing around even. Yeah.
And we've kind of already talked about the extra science.
Yeah, we talked about the exercise.
And then on April 24th and 25th, ECO, which is ecology in the classrooms and outdoors, will be coming to do lessons for the K1, the 2-3, the 4-5, and the middle school. They're coming kind of a afternoon, and then they're gonna spend the night at the Hood River Hotel. And then do the other part of it. They live in Portland and they were worried about the drive. My guess if they come out here once, they're like, oh, that wasn't so bad, and then they don't spend the night the next time. I did, because they had, I don't know where they thought they were gonna get such cheap hotels, but I did go ahead and buy a hotel room because I do want them to come out and feel comfortable. They are gonna try and come out, and I've told them how amazing, you know, and that I'm hoping that they have some ideas for an outdoor classroom here. They're a pretty amazing group. The teachers have negotiated what time they're having and, you know, the lessons, and I think the K1s will have a 30-minute lesson, the 2-3s have a 40-minute lesson, and then a 45 and a 50-minute lesson. So we just kind of titrated up a little bit for attention spans.
Just so you know,
Outdoors.
we do get discount at Camp Brandon if you ever need it.
Yeah, but it's $300 a night.
Well, he has a special rate. For
Okay,
the
and we
two
needed
kids.
2 of them because they need 2 separate places.
Yeah.
I know, I did look at that, so maybe next time, we'll
Yeah,
see. The Hood River Hotel was like $120 a night, so it wasn't too bad. So, worst case to worst, I have an ADU, we talked about using that, but we'll see if they feel like they still need to do that the second time.
We've done, and a lot of schools have outdoor ed programs that they're sort of married with, and I think we've done something like that in the past. I don't. Does anybody remember what that was?
So that again?
Secrets program?
Yeah, had like an outdoor ed program. we were-
Secrets does 4th and 5th grade
That
each
sounds
year.
familiar.
Yeah.
Did they do it this year? Yes? No,
No,
Sarah?
we do it every 2 years. We did it last year. We'll do it again next year,
Or every other year right now?
every other year. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
And ECO will do, like, they'll tailor it to like what we're learning. They know, I've worked with them at Corbett, and they know all about the Columbia River Gorge and like, and they'll ask, you know, what we need, what they want to do. I have found that their instructors have come out with 2 instructors. They're usually, I mean, they're always have some very engaging hands-on activities. The other good news is they know how to work with kids. Because sometimes when you get people that come out, they actually don't know how to work with kids, you know, and so there's been a lot of behavior problems. So anyway, so we'll see how it goes. You know, it's a get our feet wet, see if it's a good fit or not. There's Ray's curriculum review.
Sweet. Can I share my screen real quick, just so I can, if that's possible? See. Can everybody see this, hopefully? Yes?
Yep.
Okay.
Are you on?
I'm
Um,
Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, sweet, thank you. Right now we have our iReady curriculum for math. We have 2 years left in our adoption. And it's all the teachers have it K through 8th. Kindergarten and first grade have a different version, but that's the only difference. And we still are next year, as Michelle said earlier, using it for math assessments. Science curriculum this year, we purchased Twig and STEM Scopes. So Twig is for K through 3rd, STEM Scopes is for 4th through 8th. Everybody was really on board because it's NGSS, the new science standard align, and it has the 5E implementation. So this science, we're all kind of using it right now, K through 8th, and then we've purchased it for 1 more year to see how we like it. Reading curriculum, this is kind of exciting. Right now, we currently use Benchmark for grades 2 through 5. We have, I believe, 4 more years of that adoption, 3 or 4, left because a lot of these big programs were purchased when we had a bunch of COVID money. So we purchased at a discounted rate several years in advance. So that's why we still have these. However, we are looking at getting a Wit and Wisdom pilot for grades K through 3 for next year. So they would use it for 2 years, and then that 3rd year we would adopt potentially 4th and 5th grade, and then that following year we would adopt middle school. Middle school actually did a Wit and Wisdom pilot last year with, and that's a reading program with middle school, but they said it was too challenging because the kids didn't have any experience with it. It's a very successful curriculum, but it has a lot of verbiage that you need to be familiar with. So we're looking at what the pilot will be next year cost-wise. Phonics and literacy, the K through 3 uses Foundations, Haggerty, and UFly, I think is how they pronounce it. And I believe, yes, that Janet Baker's team uses these as well in their interventions when they pull students for Tier 2 and Tier 3 instruction. Writing curriculum, Michelle graciously adopted this for us this year for grades 2 through 8th. It's the units of study, Lucy Calkins, and then we're looking at purchasing more of that for next year for grades 3 and 5. And then there's a quote floating around about adopting IXL again. This year it was 4th through 8th grade. Next year we're looking at 2nd through 5th grade. As Michelle said earlier, the new map testing that we're going to be doing aligns with IXL. So it'll really pinpoint student needs. And if they're excelling in this area, but they're really struggling in another one, it feeds that to them so they can work on those specific areas. And if we purchase it, it'll be for math, ELA, science, and social studies, which is great, especially as Michelle said that our science scores aren't that wonderful. And so helping students with those specific areas in science. My personal favorite is Accelerated Reader. This is a great program for encouraging students to read books. They collect points when they read and pass a test. And for 4th and 5th grade, I can just speak personally that we have like a 65-point goal. And that's because of the distance on the Columbia River, Anne-Marie created this beautiful visual for the kids. And when they get that 65 points, they get to go to the taco truck. So next year, we're hoping that we can make more schoolwork incentives for the kiddos. Yes, yes. But the kids really seem to enjoy it, and it's great because it works with students at any reading ability. So you can take a test for points on a Dr. Seuss book, or you can take a test on Harry Potter, and you're still going to receive points for that. And then lastly, the assessments that we're doing, iReady for math, we've removed reading. Next year, we're going to do MAP testing. We do DIBELS testing for kinder through 8th grade. That's not on the computer. It's actual working one-on-one with a teacher, and it's hands-on material. So they're actually reading and it's not digital. And then we do universal screeners through the Forefront program that we purchased. And those have been really helpful to see. It's just another little pinpoint to see where the kids are at. And that's it.
Thank you, Sarah Grace.
Yeah, thank you.
And having those pinpoints really helped our special education. It really helps our intervention, so we can kind of guide like who we need to be giving those, you know, very precious resources to, and so it's really helpful. We have an opportunity for our teachers to attend an educational excellence professional development on June 12th. It's provided by the Columbia Gorge ESD with a paid stipend for teachers. We didn't have a huge people wanted to do it. It kind of came out last minute. It's also the day after school gets out, so we'll see. Our hope is that we work with them a little bit next year. They're really into looking at standards and priority, mapping the standards. I work with them at Corbett, and it's a pretty dynamic team, and they're we help you kind of focus in on what you're teaching, because teaching has a lot of balls in the air all over the place, and it just kind of helps you focus in a little bit more and making sure that you're being really targeting what you want kids to learn, or what you want to be teaching them, so it's what they need. Any other questions about that? The audit continues. That's all I can say to that. There's still a current posting for the business manager. I've only had one person at the very beginning. They had absolutely no financial experience whatsoever. I'm still pursuing, looking at the ERP Pro, which is Tyler Tech. Hood River has it. I keep saying that I'm supposed to meet with Mark, but they're right now going through some pretty significant, they're cutting $4 million out of the budget. And so they're having to meet with a lot of staff and letting them know that they're not gonna have a job next year. So we're gonna just give them a little moment to do that. So we already applied for the SI, well, we're going to apply for the SI grant. We already know about that. We added Rohana or Anna Seymour as a temporary part-time staff member. I have to say, like, she is a can-do person. Can you do that? Can you do that? Yeah, she's just really got there. She got to her first day, got to be in the kitchen, or got in the cafeteria with the middle schoolers. She handled it pretty well. Jen had to kind of go down a little bit, because they didn't know who she was, and she's really coming along with that, and we appreciate that. She has
Is she really
kitchen
in charge?
experience, and she has kitchen experience, and so she's kind of a nice person to have in case. Poor Richard can't take any days off because,
Or when he does,
yeah, it's really tough for everybody. So she would be able to step in and do that if we needed that to happen. We have a middle school teaching position open and the business manager. We have a facility committee that we're going to be working on currently right now. Projects that we have going, as you can notice, we have new stair treads. During summertime, we're going to be working on those stair treads. Teachers will be getting, we have bids for some new flooring. Painting's pretty easy for us. We just have to buy paint, and Mitch starts painting for us. We are going to go ahead and do the concrete steps that go from the main campus down to the middle school. Currently right now, there's a wooden platform, and let me tell you, those middle schoolers are doing everything they can to
Try to
destroy it.
rip it off.
Yeah, they're pulling on it and all that. It is gonna be dangerous at one point, and so having something that's going to be a step down and also a ramp will be helpful for people getting from point A to point B. Anyway.
Is that Crestline by chance? Are they gonna do that?
No, it's the guy that did the concrete out here. He'd given us a pretty cheap bid, very low cost bid, and we're like, yeah, we should do that, but we were, I just kind of feel like we're spending a lot of money. And so Don talked to him, and he goes, well, I gave that to you in the fall, my price is gonna be a lot higher. I'm like, okay, it was $100 more. So I was just like, yeah, do it.
All right.
Yeah, he's just a good guy, and he comes in, he's very efficient, and like we had a problem with we felt like they were kind of slippery, the pathway down there. He came and did some sort of something special to it, this lesson, it was really, he's very, if we have a problem, he takes care of it, so. Calendar, I just put both of those on there in case you want to do them, both on the website. No updates on I haven't heard anything from Lisa lately, but she's been pretty busy. We have spring conferences on Friday. State night, which I was wrong on the one, it's this Thursday. I had it for next Friday, sorry. We have a Tiger Rally on Thursday, May 1st. Because we don't have school on May 2nd because it's an in-service day. And then we have portfolio night, and actually there's a whole bunch of, so we have portfolio night. Actually, the 8th graders are going to Bullwinkle's on June,
And
whatever
she
that was,
just told them.
June 4th. Yeah, and then we have the June 10th is the portfolio night for 6 through 8 and also promotion. And so we're kind of starting to do that. And we're also starting to talk about the last day of school. And we're gonna need a bunch of parents to come and do some.
Don't worry, I will get that out.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I get to plan that.
Fun last year.
Yeah.
It is fun.
Any questions?
All right, that brings us to item 10, our MTA contract update.
Nope, yeah,
Full
we met, so we met briefly.
I missed the meeting today,
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Yeah, it was hard, and so we have scheduled for the next Tuesdays, we looked at your schedule, and so hopefully next Tuesday's work. We did talk a little bit about the the classified has voted to become part of a union. And so we're just looking at that process and what that looks like, and so there's a lot that we need to kind of look at for that. We're excited to get started because we want to be finished before we go home for the summer, so. Anyway, we look forward to it. Christine from OEA has been, she does like South Bosco, North Bosco, Hood River. I heard her say David Douglas. That's like
Mhm.
out of the norm. Anyway, so she's got a bunch of people, but Tuesday seemed to be open for her, so.
Yes.
Yeah, yep, perfect. Okay,
Any questions?
Where is David Douglas?
David Douglas, that's where I went to school at.
Oh.
Until my sophomore year, when my parents decided to move me, that's always great for your junior and senior year. It's on about 130th and in between Stark and Division.
So it's East
It used to be
Portland?
the largest
Yeah,
high school
right in the
in the state. And then they lost a bunch of kids, and now I think it's going back to being the largest. Yeah, it's a very large high school.
Okay.
Most languages spoken at that school, of any school in Oregon.
Oh, yeah, it's got it, yeah,
80
there's
languages or something.
very diverse, very
Wow,
diverse.
That's amazing.
It's nothing like it was when I was there. It's like, yeah, it's a very, very diverse. Yeah, yeah, like that.
I saw in North Wasco School District, there's 15 different languages spoken.
Cool.
I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is off subject, but I passed by Chenoweth Elementary and they had put on their little messaging board outside that they had a 90% attendance
I
rate.
saw that.
You see
I
that?
did see that.
That's great.
What's our attendance rate these days?
That's a really good, I have no idea. I haven't figured out how to work Power School. I'm working on it. So Jen will be able to tell us that, so.
All right, that brings us to item number 11, our policy review. So you all received attached document this month that went over all the recommendations for the first reading and then also the second reading of 15 policies that were read at our last meeting. Do we have a way to post that?
Yeah,
This,
yes, thank you. for
we
saying
don't
that.
have to say every single one. Or do you want me to say every single one?
I think that you should say
Okay.
every single one.
All right,
And can I say something really quick?
yeah,
Well, we had realized for folks who aren't in the room and who aren't on the board, we realized that we were not sending out the policies ahead of time, ahead of the reading, and apologize for that bad process. However, now we've changed, and so this policy memo, each month the policy memo will be included with the meeting agenda. There are live links that either take you to our current policy that we're suggesting just be adopted or new policy language, so that everybody can have eyes on what the suggested policies are for the first and second readings.
okay, I'll go through our second readings quickly, and then I'll go slower through our first readings. The 15 policies for second reading are as follows: BBA, board powers and duties; BBAA, individual board members' authority and responsibility; BBFA, board member ethics and conflicts of interest; BDD, board meeting procedures; BFCA, administrative regulations; BHE, board insurance; BDC executive sessions, BBFB board member ethics and nepotism, BDDH public comment at board meetings, BDDHAR the comment at board meetings attachment, BBF public charter school board member standards of conduct, BDBDA board meetings, special and emergency board meeting, DFC adoption and revision of policies, GBN JBAAR sexual harassment complaint procedures, JFCEB personal electronic devices and social media. Those were what we started last meeting and finished and will adopt this meeting. So after reading that, I make a motion that we adopt these 15 policies as read. Can I get a second? Thank you, Julia. All those in favor? Any opposed voice or opposition?
Mr. McKenna.
We'll wait.
And I just want a time check, which is one of my jobs. We're at 6:35. I'm gonna probably take off pretty soon because I've got a kid here who hasn't had dinner,
Mhm.
just a cookie, so needs that before bed, but I can rejoin by phone.
Thank you.
Hey Julia, on that note, can I hand you these? High, medium, low ranking. Could you take a look at the draft goals and,
Oh, yeah.
There's,
Have a
I mean, you can have as
facilitator
many-
in the room.
I know, I like that. I'm excited to
Ah.
be here.
We're just trying to get a sense of like.
So for all those, all of our fans that are listening right now, we're just gonna take a brief pause. And we'll get back to approval of the second reading, updated policies.
They're also my priority, aren't they?
And just, none of them would necessarily fall off if they're low. It's more to help gauge like what happens first, because this is a 5-year plan.
Is this also the time to be nitpicky on language or?
Absolutely.
We wanted your wordsmithing actually to come up in committee, but Julia may
That
have
definitely did
some.
come up in committee.
Yeah.
Because you don't wanna just.
Do you want a
in my
marker?
opinion, like design the curriculum you wanna implement, right, so that you have these, like.
And you know what? Why
And
don't
it's
you
not
look at,
just like, to me, and you guys can give me feedback, because I'm not an educator, but like, it's also, I understand like the Sarah Grace conversation around having curriculum, but like, I want not just to have the curriculum, I want a kid who comes out of the school with critical thinking, like enrichment in the creative arts, lots of outdoor space learning, like, there's a step that goes from like having a curriculum person who picks these really fancy things to having kids that
Implementing
are implementing it and experience it.
I think that that's right on. This is the actual language. I might have been shorthanding some things up there.
I mean, you could just have it like a design and implement a comprehensive school curriculum, small
Do
letter.
you wanna write that down?
You want me to read it?
On there.
I do think that it would benefit from you wordsmithing. I told them everything I've ever read from Julia is like brilliant, so.
Yeah, my unlived life as a writer. Sadly, I'm just a boring old attorney.
Could I speak to something?
Yeah.
At schools that I've been in, always get in this great big debate on curriculum versus programs. So I've always looked at like the things that these packages that we buy are the programs. And the curriculum is what we're teaching and how we teach it.
Okay.
So I
Mhm.
love that you want to add and implement, but I also think the curriculum is how we teach and what we're teaching, not necessarily the program that we're using.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I have a really
Mhm.
narrow sense of what the word curriculum means, and you have a really broad one. And I think as long as it captures that broad sense, I don't need to worry.
I feel like it does, but
Yeah,
I don't know how other
And if
people
you
feel.
think about design, because the teachers are actually gonna be designing it, which instead of purchasing something.
Right.
You wanna go back and vote on that?
Sorry.
Okay.
So we read the policies that are in our second reading, the 15 policies there. Make a motion that we adopt the 15 second read policies as written and adjusted. Can I have a second from Julia? All those in favor? Any opposed voice or opposition? Thank you. I'll just roll right into reading our first reading. This is 13 policies. The first one is CBB, recruitment and appointment of the executive director. It's no changes, readopt the current policy. CHCA, approval of handbooks and directives, no changes, readopt current policy. DD, funding proposals. Something happened to it. Funding
So much
proposals
left.
and application, okay, the boring part when I'm reading. DD, funding proposals and applications, there's proposed change. DFA, investment of funds, no changes, readopt current policy. DH, loss coverage, new policy from OSBA. DID, property inventories, no changes, readopt current policy. DJ, which is public charter school purchasing, no changes, readopt current policy. DJB, petty cash accounts, no changes. DJC, bidding requirements, new policy from OSBA. DJCAR, exemptions from competitive bidding and special procurement, new policy from OSBA. DLC, expense reimbursements, no changes, readopt. DN, disposal of public charter school property, no changes, readopt. And JAH, student suicide prevention, new policy, language adapted from D21. So are there any questions on those policies that were sent out in the policy packet? Okay. We'll have our second reading at our next meeting and adoption. Thank you, policy committee, for all your work on that. Brings us item number 12, our strategic planning goal review and discussion.
Okay. Okay, so let's pass these out. This is a draft of the current strategic planning goals. And these are presented to you from the strategic planning committee, which includes Michelle, Tiffany McKenna's been there a couple of times, myself and Mary Ellen and Jen, and also a couple of others who aren't here, including John Moff, Danielle, Dawn, Lisa, thank you.
And
Danielle.
Yeah.
Yep. So just to kind of recap briefly the process where we are, we've been working to develop these goals. We also have a pretty comprehensive list of draft objectives that go under each of these goals. Tomorrow, the school staff is going to be looking at those objectives and starting to kind of refine, eliminate, choose which ones work best, or like add to if there's anything missing. And then again, in early May, the staff, I think specifically the teachers in early May, will have another run of the objectives. The goal of the strategic planning is to get finalized goals approved by the board at our May meeting. The board does not need to approve the objectives, but we will get those in front of the board, I think, in May. So for today, what the hope was is that we'd have some conversation around these goals. If there's anything that's missing, if there are any red flags, if you have a suggestion for any refinements. And then also we want to go through this kind of high, medium, low prioritization. Like I said before, if you were in here, when I was talking to Julia, the prioritization is not necessarily taking any of the goals off of the table. It is just to help us when it comes time to like creating an action plan for implementing the strategic plan. It'll help kind of provide some, what bits and pieces do we work on first versus like which ones can wait for a couple of years. What did I miss?
That was pretty clear. Yeah. 5-year plan.
Yeah, 5-year plan. So maybe just opening it up to thoughts, input, questions on the goals specifically.
Our facilitator really did want the board to rank these. He
Yeah.
wants some
Right.
hard numbers.
Yeah, like
out
your
of
top
me.
priority, your most important, and then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of stickers and we can do that. Let's first have discussion and then maybe when we take a break or like just before you leave, put your stickers on the board.
Should we rank them like we did? Should they rank them like we did? Like first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth?
I was going to do it easy, like a little bit
That's why I
simpler,
don't
but if
okay.
you want to, we can.
No, I just think we have to leave here with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill's gonna
Right.
come after.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so with the sticky
You got
dots,
that.
Like your
I
top
did.
3
Yeah.
would be your high.
sure, yeah, because there's 6 of them.
I would say your top 2. would
Two,
be high,
yeah.
Top 2, there's 2,
medium,
yeah,
top
maybe like 2
2
high,
medium,
2
2
medium,
low.
2 low. And then once we see like how the dots flesh out, then we'll have a sense of what
Right.
the highest priorities
And
are.
it's just like what we are gonna really concentrate on the first.
Well, one
one goal that I've had since I got on the board and that I think we've realized, listening to Michelle, is having staff that feel supported and a really great staff culture and teachers that stay and are senior teachers with experience. And maybe that's all captured here, but something I want to flag, that's been a goal of the board, of like increasing salaries, working on school culture so that staff feel supported, because to me, that's so foundational to our students' experience in the school. And it may be embedded in these things that we are supporting our staff, because there is the create school culture where everyone feels belonging and safety. And we actually had one about professional development or something for, and then we realized like, well, that's gonna be in the design, that's gonna be in the increase that. So we felt like it was kind of that it would be embedded in the
Right,
outcome, the objectives.
objectives, right?
Yeah, and then I would say just making sure it's reflected like under a goal, because to me, that's a high one. Because like a lot of the fun, what I'm hearing in being a charter school and in being a teacher is being able to design that curriculum. And, you know, if you are really into dog mushing, you can have a class on dog mushing, or if you're really into, you know, and like
Take them up till last.
you know, and do those really, or a poetry cafe, like I just can speak to the lens I have through my kids that are here, but I think, you know, sort of letting people's individual talents shine and feeling supported in that.
But I think that would also, a lot of that fall under that curriculum that we are gonna design as a staff.
Because we're gonna have to provide time to do that. I mean, that's the thing that we don't ever have enough of is time.
Another thing, maybe just to add, I don't know if you noticed in the most recent newsletter, but Michelle provided the goals and provided some kind of value statements around them. And our facilitator has like helped us understand that those are value statements. They're not goals and they're not objectives and they're not actions. However, they are really helpful in kind of providing context for that type of, you know, like what you're saying, our values. And one of our values at the school is to support the teachers. And so I think that there might, in this plan, there might be some other ways for us to really communicate that
Right.
beyond just having an objective or having school objectives that are specifically aimed at supporting the teachers. That might be another opportunity.
And I don't want to limit it just to teachers. I would say full staff. Like I
Yes,
think
yeah.
having
Thank
the
you.
longevity
The culture.
from our ED to our cook to our recess people, not having that turnover is so important to our kids.
And that, I think, falls under that school culture as well.
Well, and also like just the financial stability so that you are able to provide salaries that are, you know.
I was gonna ask McKenna about the financial stability. Should we be aiming for more, or we just want to stick with stable in this current climate? Like, like, is there a way to capture like being in good financial health as opposed to, it might in some certain economic times mean just stability, and in other times mean like we're actually keeping up with inflation and we're, you know, like, and compensating at a higher rate than some of the schools around us. I don't know if there's just
And those.
right at this moment, stability
Yeah.
feels like a great
Right.
goal,
I
but
think that could be encompassed in that as well.
In the objectives that.
maybe
would
it's in the
be-
objectives, but.
It could, you know, it's like, I agree 100% with what you're saying
Mhm.
on those lines, like, that's what allows us to.
To do the other things.
And that focus also, what we've been focusing
Sustain,
on
yeah.
has allowed us, I feel, has been a part of what makes the school so much better today than it was when we first,
Mhm.
you know. were-
To me, there's like an aspect of like financial freedom to make some of these choices, right? Like the finances so often constrain what we can do. It's like we have a great idea, but we don't have. So like, how do we get to a place where we have financial power or freedom or however you want to express it to realize the full vision, whether it's facilities or curriculum.
And for us, it's, you know, it's student numbers, which we're working, you know, we're getting better and better. And then I think the long term, when we're talking about endowments or some sort of a fund, you know, like that kind of a thing could we look towards, like after we get through this big construction cycle, where are we at financially? And, you know, that can be something we focus on moving forward. And how do we achieve this? Tapping into our alumni in the community.
But I just sent a letter out to the alumni because I got, they have to get an approval to send it to, on their email list and then actually ask for their email list, but I didn't get that, so that would be nice, or putting it in a Valentine's or
Julia?
something. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'm just gonna take us back to the
Yeah.
strategic
Yeah.
planning goals real quick.
Yeah.
Julia, I think that your point on the financial health would be worth rewording the sustained financial stability, because
Yeah.
it's already kind of worded funky.
Health and stability,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that that's more encompassing of what the intention is to have like good financial health.
Like sustained financial stability that allows us to, like, I mean, because it sounds like that allows us to do something. So,
I think back to when Thad was on the board and he would often say, you know, we need to spend this year's dollars on this year's kids. And I think that's a really important statement. And I think it's wise. And I think that it might help be a kind of North Star for future boards and those dealing with finances, because if you steer away from it, you know, you can become very conservative and of course you want to save money. However, I think that maybe that could possibly be a guiding principle that, I don't know, part of that objectives of the financial piece that Julia's speaking about.
There may be a way to safeguard and put in things or some sort of language that states, you know, like at the end of the year, you have a reconciliation of the budget. And sometimes there's been a number of years where there's extra money. And sometimes it's put into building reserve funds and things like that. So maybe once we get past this year, this year and a half of construction and whatnot, we evaluate that and say, okay, we have goals to build certain reserve funds back up again, but then also make sure we're investing in the day-to-day. What's going on, so.
Good. What else? What do you notice, McKenna?
I was thinking that I see like the last two, in a way, could fit together really nicely, right? In a sense, because you can't really have a long-term plan if you don't have financial stability. And so I was thinking that might be something we could combine. But of course, you can also look at that last one as in like, let's spend it and let's just fix everything right now because we know things are going to be a lot more expensive in the future. So I was tackling that in my mind. So if we know that next year things are going to cost twice as much, obviously it would make more sense to do it to this year. And with the market as it is, we definitely don't want to be investing. So it just changes the whole mindset. So.
And we've invested a lot, you know, I think in the staff, in the school. I mean, you're seeing that, you know, where we are today. And so I think continuing that investment in a place where people want to be, it fulfills the financial stability. Like it's a self-fulfilling thing. So.
Yeah, I think in terms of education in schools, I think that, in the last few years, we've seen that, you know, investing, there's a higher return on investment in funding the facilities projects and paying teachers better and staff and good things can come out of spending money. So I think you know, not to, you know, wisely, however, like I would always say, you know, it's if you invest the money, it will come back. It can come back.
I have a small reaction to the increased reading, math and science achievement, because that feels like just a testing goal, which I just find a little bit bland. Like I would love like an increased reading, math and science joy and achievement, or like,
Or enrichment.
you know, like,
achievement.
just like,
Yeah.
you know, like some aspect of it where, or interest or, curiosity or some kind of flavor there that's
Mhm.
beyond just a test score.
Yeah.
So you have kids that are really feeling inspired in those areas.
Mhm.
And that might be that objective as well, you know, where that is.
Mhm.
Yeah, it could
It's
be.
the only way to get that, those things up is probably.
I
through
just
joy.
think so often we're
Mhm.
teaching to it. There's like the
Yeah.
fear of teaching to
Mhm.
a test, and
Mhm.
I'm not interested in that as like my model for a school. Like, I don't want just to be good on the test scores. I want kids that love math
Mhm.
or just love to read when you give them like, you know, or grabbing Dog Man off the shelf. Like that to me is like something's going right.
Mhm.
You know? I'm a little bit, like, if I were to put one lower, it would be this one for the hub for the community, because I think our obligations to the students in the school. And I love that we become a place that like facilitates community and like, we're so important to this tiny community. It's like the biggest employer, but to me, it's like, I'm just saying, as if I'm ranking,
Mhm.
I think community second, my student staff first. I'm just as like we're a school for these kids,
Yeah.
and whether they come from Mosier or not, we're their school.
Put one of your orange stickers there.
So it's just as much as I'm loath to like rank anything lower than others, that one to me is like. I'll put a sticker.
And we talked about that kind of being like a natural outcome of achieving the other goals.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Great.
And I think it connects to people feeling safe and belonging here if they see their parents or other neighbors coming in and out.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it's great that you guys put safety in there. Like, we kind of forget the moment we were at, like, when was that, 2 years ago? 3 years ago? But safety is no small thing in education these days, and I just think it has to be in there somewhere. On front, that kids feel safe. And I hope that that when you like go under those goals, it includes like physical safety on campus in addition to safety from bullying and identity safety and maybe, you know.
I think, you know, when I look at that one, for me, it goes to the top because it goes hand in hand with being like the temperature being the appropriate temperature in the room so kids can study if they don't feel safe in their environment. None of the other stuff is possible.
Mhm.
Are you saying the last one for
The
that?
middle one, the create a school where
Mhm.
culture where
Feels
everyone feels belonging and safety. Just because of that has to be like a baseline.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe like security.
that one
It's like
was-
basic needs.
Yeah, I don't know, just that one to me has a lot of like, when I want the other things to happen, that needs to happen first.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
In my mind, I don't see anything else mattering if the kids don't feel safe or they don't, you know, feel like they belong. Okay, but then they're distracted, you know, so maybe that safe culture or that just, yeah, I don't know, it is part of it's part of the facility and whatnot, but it's also just a sense of, you know, how you feel in school. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one is the top priority, I would say for me. Just because kids can't learn when they're in a state of fear or discomfort. The prefrontal cortex is shut off, and so I think, you know, having an environment where kids they want to be in the building, they want to come to school. That's the kind of first step, in my mind, and then, I see the curriculum, and emphasizing critical thinking, that being second, and then for me, that one drives the increasing reading and math, which comes out of that, and the teachers being engaged and involved in knowing what they need in order to teach children, and have them be their, you know, their best in class. And so those three really stand out for me as the top.
What was the third one that you were calling out?
Yeah, so the first was create school culture where everyone feels safe, belonging, and feels a sense of belonging and safety. And then the designing and curriculum and increasing reading and math kind of for me are, I don't think I wanna,
Mhm.
put they kind of go hand in hand in my mind.
Mhm.
And then I agree with Julia that the hub for community engagement, well, I think that, ultimately that's the kind of what the beauty that can be created out of all this. I think I would put it last as well. Serve the students, the staff and the teachers first. And, really invest in that. And then, out of that would come, and of course, I mean, I'm certainly all for community engagement and I think, public civic spaces are incredibly important. But if we have to rank, I would put that one at the last, but not least.
Yeah, I mean, they're all still goals. Everything,
Yeah.
everything up there is a goal.
Right.
It's just that, where do we see the highest priority?
Mhm.
Even the lowest priority is still a goal.
Mhm. Yeah, at this point, even the lowest priority is still high priority.
Right.
Okay, this is really awesome.
Mhm.
I'm really glad to see you working over there.
Yeah. It's like,
Um,
yeah.
And yeah, I'm just noticing that it's now 7.
Yes.
I think that this is really good. I took notes and I think Tiff took some too. It was like good. So we'll share this back when we meet with the planning group next week or something, I think it is, that we're meeting next.
Maybe a couple out, because I think it's not till after they've met.
Okay.
Yeah,
after the
teachers
teachers,
do
yeah,
time, yes.
okay,
Right.
never mind.
Early May, right?
May,
Just make sure board members put your ranking up there before we go, so we
yes,
can
please.
Yeah.
establish a ranking.
Yes, please.
That the numbers will establish the vote.
And
Yeah.
we don't need to do it.
No,
We've already
we
done
can,
it.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
I know that's what I'm looking at. You think I got notes, but it's really just.
Oh.
No, I'm listening. Yeah, we're.
So can we use your votes and our votes
You can.
at the end no, just to make the determination as a goal for the board? Can you collate that and just be, okay, here's whatever we voted?
The top.
So we can pull that from, we can just move to the next thing now and people can.
We're ready. Yep, we're ready to move.
Alright.
Yep.
That brings us to item number 13, our ED evaluation update. And this is an action item because we need to empower a couple board members to engage FOSBA, create a survey like we've done in the past, and then board members need to go through their eval packet, which we have shared a couple meetings ago.
Yeah.
But so it's just a matter, and Julie and I have been working on it, and we don't have to do it, but I'm more than happy to do it. So it's up for discussion and then action, vote to empower a couple people. How do we feel?
It's a great idea if you do it.
Does anyone else want to be involved? Or are you okay with Julie not doing it? Julie, I'm speaking for you, but I didn't know if you want to be involved.
Sounds good.
Yeah?
Sure.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the board empowers Julia and I to work with OSBA on a survey and then to organize the member eval packet and send it out to the board.
I'll second. Tiff's got it.
Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed, voice or opposition? Motion passes. Thank you. That brings us to number 14, wait for Mosier update.
Yeah, that we're chugging right along. Donations are coming in. We've got a couple of good sponsorships that have come in so far, and the committee just moving forward, working out logistics still, like we got porta potties coming, these kinds of things set up, and just again, I'll say this to the public that's listening. Get those donations in, hit up your employer, your friends, they own a little business, anything helps, whether it's a dollar amount or items for auction. Yeah, I don't know, McKenna, do you have anything?
Yeah,
to add to it?
we the website is live and we'll send out a push email to everybody. It's madeformosier.org. If people want to check it out, there's already, 9 items on there just for your reference, that we're going to be able to bid on. About a week before the actual event on May 31st.
Yep.
At MoCo.
Yes.
And speaking of those sponsorships, we have essentially there were 5 from last year that are continuing on to this year based on we just didn't have an event last year because we got rained out. So when you see there's lots of sponsorships. It's actually mainly from last year that we're honoring. And then, but we did get a really big one, Skamania Lodge Adventures at $5,000, which is great. And then, we're adding Crestline and MoCo as diamond sponsors as well, because they have done so much for us, and our Crestline will be
Donating time for the slope project, and they're
Yeah.
currently working out bidding on like concrete items and, you know, rocks and things like that. But their time will be donated, which is awesome.
Yeah. But the
Thank
good
you.
news is, on the website, you can now register for the cornhole tournament.
Yes. Grab a partner.
Yeah.
And it can, this money donated, if you donate, it can be written off on your taxes.
That's right.
So, and it's part of the Oregon Cultural Trust now,
Mhm.
so you can give, just so everyone knows, if you give 1,000 to a qualifying charity and 1,000 to MoCo, you can write off 1,600 from your state taxes,
Mhm.
so.
And we have a sponsorship level of 200 this year
Mhm.
to make sure it's
I'm not
accessible.
MoCo, is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Motor Community School,
Yeah.
sorry.
MCS.
And,
My weekend plans.
the last thing was, if you did want to be a sponsor and you wanted to be on the poster, that would need to be, they need to tell us by Friday.
Yes.
Awesome.
Any
It'll be fun.
questions?
That's the bulk of the updates. There'll be a volunteer list coming out soon. We're trying to get that up by May 1st, so you have a full month to register to volunteer at the event, because we will need lots of hands for carnival games and food service and other things. So think about it.
We're gonna have like the wine ring off anything again?
Yeah, well, yes, or
That's
the
the
pool.
fun
It might be the bottle pool, like the bingo ball, where you know, you
Okay.
pay $20, then you get the bottle of wine that's got that whatever drop
Mhm.
comes out. And we will have ring toss and balloon pop and fun games like that.
Fun.
That brings us to 15 garden update.
You wanna do it, Tiff?
We are having a garden party to fill all the soil, or fill all the garden beds with soil. They'll all be placed. It's gonna be this Saturday, the April 19th, is my date right? April 19th, 12 to 4. If you can come for all the time, some of the time, come on down, bring your shovels, wheelbarrows. And yeah, we'll just be moving some soil, and then it'll be complete. And the kids that have some seedlings going will get to plant them outside and see them take off before the end of the year.
Maybe just one other thing to add,
Planting.
yeah,
Yeah.
branches. So we're trying to fill, Dawn's having soil dropped off here on Friday, but we want to fill the bottoms of the beds with some some organic materials to kind of make it a little bit easier and use less soil. And it's also good for the garden bed. So if you happen to have materials that you can bring, I've got a truck I'm filling up, and I was just gonna go park on the street next to the garden and throw it over the fence. That's an easy way to do it. So
Yeah.
if you've got anything.
Lawn
throw it over.
clippings.
Yeah, lawn clippings are a little bit harsh unless they're brown.
Okay.
Yeah, because otherwise the green is
Oh, okay,
too,
yeah.
Depends what's on the
too hot, yeah. But like leaves, dried leaves, branches, cardboard.
As long as it's non-dyed and no tape, like it has to be like
Clean.
corrugated, but yeah.
That is the proper term because my husband.
I know that because of you.
Yeah.
My husband would correct all of you.
But it's gonna be fun, it's gonna be sunny, it'll be
Yeah.
nice, we'll have
Yeah.
snacks for
Yep,
folks.
snacks and drinks.
It's gonna kind of be like a party.
Yeah.
Kind
That's why I said a
Well,
party.
we're gardening.
Yeah.
Kids are all welcome, of course. They can
Yep.
play around and hang out.
Yeah, thank you for the update. That brings us to 16 Board of Elections. We have 3 members up for election this year. Julia, Abelia, and Emily. And we generally have a candidate forum the Thursday before the meeting. So our next meeting, so it's up for discussion because our meetings are normally on Tuesday. Our meeting would normally be the 20th of May, but because of my schedule, it's the 19th of May. Which would put us traditionally the 15th of May, but we might want to do it the 14th to do the same amount of time. It's up to the board to do this, but it would be a Wednesday forum instead of a Thursday forum. What are our thoughts on that? I can bring up I have an old candidate forum. It's basically a chance to put your name out there for those who want to be on the board and give people the opportunity to know who you are. And that way people know who they're voting on.
Thank you. Have a
It's
good
open
evening.
to members of the MCS. What's it called exactly? Foundation members. Sorry. So you must be a foundation member to vote. And then those who want to run, come into the office, meet with Daphne, and fill out a packet. And become a board foundation member as well, MCS foundation member as well.
So the process to run or to run for the board, you come see Daphne, you fill out a packet, and then you have to be here the week before for the forum.
Yes,
And
yeah,
at the forum, do
Claire.
people like ask you questions and stuff?
they can.
It's
They-
mostly the board was my experience last
Mhm.
year asking, because no one tuned
Yeah.
in to ask.
No one tuned in.
But it was the board asking.
Yeah, there's a questionnaire,
Oh, yeah.
and then you submit your, I don't think you had to submit a resume, but people did.
Yeah, I think I did.
Okay, and then the board asks, just clarifying questions, and there could be people who show up to ask questions, but this is very rarely the case. Yeah, it's a 3-year term.
How many terms can a board member do? Is there a
I think
limit?
there's a limit,
It
yeah.
is, okay,
Yeah.
there's no limit. Okay.
But
And
people
then
want them.
Then the board members are seated, the new members are seated in June. And then at that meeting, go ahead,
And at the end,
at the end of the meeting, they're seated.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
And then is it that meeting also that we do board, we have to figure out the board makeup of chair, co-chair, or vice chair, or whatever,
right, the
We're going to do.
positions, officers.
officers positions. So that'll be at the end of the June meeting as well. Any questions, comments?
No, so what day are we gonna have the forum? The 14th, did we say, or 15th, or what would work for you then?
14th.
14th, okay. Right. At 5.
Mhm.
I probably wouldn't be able to join that one.
And,
Okay.
We don't have to run it, although it'd probably be a good idea.
Yeah, because Julia's
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, and then just succession planning and thinking about those things, I think I've said before, but I would prefer not to be the board chair. This next go around.
So you can prefer it.
It would be in my, I would like to balance my life. But I will still, I'm, well, we can cross that
Yeah.
when we get there, but I want people to be thinking about it.
So, do we know, I mean, is everybody running again?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that too, or all three.
Do
of
we
you.
know?
Emily, you
Yeah.
are,
You
you can
are.
speak for yourself or what you're thinking.
Yeah, I think I would like to.
Yeah.
And I don't know about the other gals.
I'll check in and let everyone.
And then voting is,
Yeah,
I'm just saying, on the calendar, it says from May 12th to May 16th.
well, we'd want
It will be
to,
the 14th,
I'm just seeing it
Yeah,
on the school.
yeah, it
calendar.
is, because you declare, I think, on Monday, you have
Okay.
to,
have put in your name.
Put in
in
your
there.
name.
Okay.
yeah,
So,
let me get on the website real quick
Okay.
now, we'll get to.
yeah, because we can put that in the May newsletter, and just like the process, so
Mhm.
people know it.
Yeah.
And they can,
And
Yeah.
links
so
to
they can, yeah.
fill out the
Yeah.
form if they want.
And also letting folks know how to vote, because I
Yes.
remember I did not know how to vote.
Mhm.
And it's very easy.
You come into the
Right,
office.
come into the office and there's a form to fill
Yeah.
out to
So-
become.
Just a question,
Oh,
so
okay.
does it have to be, like, can we make something that's more online for people to vote? I mean, that seems pretty,
It's very old school, like,
Restrictive.
yes, it's very restrictive, you had to come
yeah.
in.
if
no,
you,
it's
if you
certainly-
work 8 to 5, like, you might not be able to make it in here, so.
Oh, yeah. Right.
To vote, you do have to come into the office.
It's the bylaws, which that is another conversation.
Yeah.
That has come up in policy meeting, that the bylaws need to be
Updated.
Yeah. now we need a
revised
place
and
to update.
updated, so that would be the time to address the voting, which
Mhm.
I agree is limiting.
Yeah.
Very limiting.
I
Very
think the
limiting.
only thing with the online is because they have to be a foundation member, so if there's a way
Oh.
to check
That's what we have to
that,
do, yes.
you know what I mean, before they
Yes,
can submit it,
Daphne has the
or
list.
Daphne will have
Well,
to go
maybe-
through the votes online and be like, oh, they weren't a member.
But you
or-
could make a list and those
Send
are
it
the only
just-
people that have access to
Perfect.
the
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
form.
Yeah.
So that, I mean,
Yeah.
that seems pretty easy to do.
Mhm.
Now,
Great.
whether or not somebody votes for you, I don't know.
Yeah, and then the anonymity,
You can make that too.
Yes, that you don't.
We can
collect.
just send it to
Yeah.
emails of
Yep.
folks who are.
Yeah.
members.
And
And it
the
doesn't collect.
responses.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to
Nope, you
collect
don't have to
Yeah.
collect
any
the address.
information.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
it can be
'cause I think
completely
that-
anonymous.
Yep.
But it would collect that you can't vote more than once, right?
Mhm.
So.
And you can set it for that too.
Yeah.
Have that, okay.
So-
Yeah.
So we should check, do our bylaws have any wiggle room?
Um,
Well, it says the form can be found on the Mosier website, so you don't actually have to come in and get a form, you'd have to just send it in somehow.
Mhm.
Okay.
So you could actually have, they could bring it in, but you could also have a Google Doc that they uploaded the form to, so.
mhm.
Or they could just email the form to Daphne, I guess, so, I mean, it doesn't
Mhm.
make it sound like you have to come into the office, but.
Right, I think the becoming a member part probably could be done online,
Mhm.
submitted online.
Yeah,
The voting part, that one,
oh, I see, the candidacy thing, okay, hold on,
yeah,
I'm looking at all of
classes and voting, 13.
that. The bylaws are fairly old,
Mhm.
two
Yeah.
thousand 17.
Zone
Like all
one-
of our policies.
Yeah, zone one members of the North Wasco County
Members
School
of
District
the
21,
member
parents and
consent
guardians of
statement
students enrolled at
membership.
Mosier. So no, that said members, residents. The volunteers,
Where's the voting?
individuals eligible to become members must sign a statement of membership and supply the executive director or designee with his or her name and address, including email address available prior to the opening of the annual membership meeting. So it must be done prior to the membership meeting. Statement of membership shall include a provision that requires members to notify the executive director or designee of any changes in the members' contact information. Membership may be revoked only as provided in 7.11, which I'm gonna go over right now. That meeting is also, there's a state of the school address, at that meeting as well.
We should also check, just make sure that all the teachers, our newest ones, are members.
Mhm.
And maybe your executive director has been good. You told me to do it last year and I forgot.
That would be good.
And
Okay,
our
here it is.
annual meeting is the May meeting, right? Is
Val-
that right?
Seven,
Foundation.
section seven.
foundation.
Is that right?
Oh, or
It's
electronic.
It would have to be it says it has to be on the second week of May.
It's just prior to the general membership meeting, so we used to do it at 5 and the meeting will start at 5:30. We'll just continue to start at 5 and the meeting will start after.
But does it matter that it's not
Not gonna
the
be the
second week of
second.
May, because that says the second week of May,
What is it?
that's the third week,
Michelle,
that's the
it's
fourth week of
section
May.
7.
Third.
Right,
Third
it
full
says
week.
paper or electronically.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Section
Perfect.
7.7 proxy and ballot
So
voting.
I'm
Nope, there's
understanding
no
it'd have to
proxy
be like the
voting.
13th.
There's no
However,
proxy voting.
voting by ballot,
Or
paper
electronic,
or
I just saw it.
electronic.
Right, so we're good. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Changed it from the-
Yeah, it says the annual
Yeah,
membership
because
meeting
it's
shall be
really
held on the
challenging
second
to-
week in
Yes,
May
it
each
is.
year.
Plus, also it, the security of it.
Right. But again, we can send it out just to.
And then it
members.
says that we can
We can
have
create
a
a member
candidate
email.
form the week ahead of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think we'll get more
We
people.
should.
to
Why did we
it.
have
Yeah.
the meeting?
More,
Thursday?
yeah, you'll get more.
No, it's
people,
not.
but
It's,
Well, remember.
It's the 14th.
Oh.
Oh, 19, yeah, 19th.
it's more
I don't
secure.
remember why we moved it.
I think for financials, because we were.
Is it the 14th, that is virtually the second week of May, because May,
Yes.
I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
we-
because
April
one and
was
two
Tuesday.
don't really
Yeah.
matter. Okay, so that would be, but that's for the candidate forum. It's not for the annual board, annual membership
Okay.
meetings.
Mhm.
We'd have to
I
have
have
that.
to read
We
that.
moved it for financials,
Uh-huh.
I'm
Yeah,
Somebody
I'll
has to
make
raise
sure
it.
those
See.
are announced
Yeah.
at the beginning,
but we can move it back.
May 19, regular.
I think that's what he said, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would, I mean, I think
What do you
that,
guys think?
what happens if you go against your bylaws? One, for scheduling.
Someone might tell-
Someone
I
could
don't know,
probably-
maybe I haven't been exposed to
Someone
these
could submit a
questions.
complaint that you aren't following the
Oh.
rules, and that it could be.
Yeah.
in a
We don't-
public
I mean, we'll
hearing.
want to follow the rules.
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a question.
Right. And on our
So,
calendar,
like,
it
we need
says
them
the
move our
voting
meeting.
from the 12th to the 16th.
Voting from the 12th. to
It
the
says,
16th.
it says MCS Board of Directors voting.
Okay. So let's keep that since it's already been
Mhm.
out. So the
Right.
voting is from May 12th through the 16th.
Yeah.
Yeah, then it has to be the 19th then. So. Come what may, it will be the 19th.
Okay, so.
Sorry.
the
So
forum-
nothing
You
changes.
can't have the voting during the meeting. And if we're gonna make the meeting,
Correct. Has to be
it has to
prior.
be, the meeting has to be after the vote.
Mhm.
And since we've already posted the voting, so 12 through the,
Mhm.
Well,
16,
we're gonna have the voting start before the candidate forum?
no, before the meeting. So you,
Well,
Oh,
You-
on
But can the
the,
candidate
on the
form
14th?
be before the, because voting starts on the 12th.
It seems like you should have a candidate forum.
Before
this
Before
vote.
that.
yes,
We would
Yeah.
need the candidate
That
forum
makes-
the week of May 5th.
yes.
Yes, yeah.
Let's do.
I would, yeah, maybe make it a little bit later so we can tell people a little bit about the process,
Mhm.
you know, and maybe this is an email that goes out.
What if we did the candidate form that first, the first, like on the 12th?
On the 12th.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
let's-
could do
let's
that.
do that,
And then.
because that's
open
a week
voting.
before the.
that's 1 week before the board meetings.
Yeah, and then
November
voting just opens that.
And I
That's
think
right
last year it was a
afterwards.
week, there was a week.
Or the,
Between
or the
the two.
8th.
Yeah, so let's do, why don't we do this? Why don't we hold both the 8th and the 12th at this point and ask Amelia and Julia if they can make that, either of those dates? Assuming that they are putting their name in the hat again. So do you want to follow up on that with them?
mhm.
And stick to the meeting though, as we said, 19th.
Yeah,
Let's put it for the 8th.
But
didn't it
Friday.
Yeah.
say something about community or the foundation
No,
annual
we're
meeting
okay.
that we're okay with that? We're just gonna-
No.
just because we already said when
I
the
know.
voting was gonna happen, so next year,
Mhm.
either we change our bylaws to be a little bit, have a little bit of wiggle room,
Good,
or
So candidate form on the 8th, is what we're saying.
the candidate form will be either on the 8th or the 12th. But we need to make sure that if Julia and Amelia are going to want to, be candidates, that they can make it. And I'm okay on either of those personally.
I'm ending this up.
I know, I know. you-
Oh, do you guys, shall I?
I think it's you.
Go for it.
Okay.
But I think we should probably vote on that.
Oh,
since we're doing-
Oh,
So I'm just,
I can only think of one thing. It'll be-
Yeah.
all right, so. The motion that the candidate form is either May 8th or 12th, depending on availability of our 2 other directors, and then our general meeting is May 19th, as I already stated,
And the voting, get the voting in there too,
voting from,
12th to the 16th.
I'll do that. So I'll make the motion that our candidate forum is either May 8th or 12th, depending on our other 2 directors, and that voting for candidates for the open seats will be May 12th through the 16th.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed, voice or opposition? Motion passes. And that brings us to 17 committee reports.
Yeah, so we covered the Made for Mosier. And so the only other one was for the OMSI overnight. we, penny saved is penny earned, and we got it
Mhm.
50% off
Yeah.
thanks to
Yes.
the OMSI grant. So, yeah,
That's awesome.
so that was $1,800.75, or
No,
sorry,
1850.
1850.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's it, other than what we already discussed.
Fabulous.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Did you want
A
to?
second.
Did you want to go through
Okay.
events?
Oh, yeah, we should talk.
Oh,
real
wasn't
quick.
it the front?
How they're
Oh,
breaking the
give
law.
slide. Oh, perfect. Okay. Skate night, we discussed is on Thursday.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can, or the timekeeper. All right, made the promoter sponsor poster deadline is Friday, as we discussed. Message me or Tiffany if
Yeah,
you guys want to be a
yes.
sponsor. Then the garden work party we discussed is 12 to 4 on Saturday, the 19th. We have an Earth Day trash cleanup. I believe that's an all-day thing,
No, it's
One
gonna
to two.
be from 1 to 2.
1 to 2.
Yep, and we're looking for volunteers for that as well.
Excellent.
When is that?
During
22nd.
school, that's Tuesday, the 22nd. Yeah, Earth Day, right on.
And then on May 16th from 5 to 8 is the skate night. On May 22nd, we have STEM night, and that starts at 5, and then that rolls right into the spring play right afterwards, starting at 6. And then May 31st is made for Mosier from 12 to 8.
Yep.
All day.
Yep.
And then we have June 9th, we have the K through 5th grade portfolio night. And June 10th, we have 6th through 8th portfolio night with the 8th grade promotion.
And I think we're kind of hoping that we have some board members at that promotion night for, really do a simple meal and.
Mhm.
You know, starting to plan that.
For the 8th grade promotion.
Mhm.
Great.
Any other good of the order?
And last day for students
Oh, I
on
have
the 11th.
one question. Going back to the ED eval,
Mhm.
when do we want to, do we have an idea yet of when we want to complete it? Or are we, is that,
I'll have to
For
look
the
back at the
committee.
calendar, but as soon as
Okay.
possible.
okay,
Generally, you want it done so that as we're planning on hiring people for next year, so this is an odd year, like, you want to have it so that as you're preparing to, write a new contract for your ED for the next year, you have already done the eval and all that stuff's done, so that you're not
Okay.
searching for new.
so
So
we're
we're-
gonna try
we're
to get it
behind by a
done
matter of
by
quarter,
the June
probably.
15th.
Right, whenever
Is
you.
that-
So how about just looking for getting it out and getting it done for next.
Maybe.
For May,
Mhm.
okay,
And
All
when are
right.
we looking at budget for?
And we'll have a budget to present
Okay,
at that.
at May.
Yeah,
Okay.
at the May meeting. We'll have a
And
budget.
then
to present.
adopting, approving it in June.
Well, yes, yeah, so kind of looking at it over and then June approving it, so.
Mhm.
okay.
I'm trying to get
Great.
the numbers as solid as we possibly can, so.
Yeah, and
And just also, we have Miss Lancey's out on a leave of absence, and we have Ashley. I can't remember. Solstead is our temporary teacher for right now, and so I don't know how long the leave of absence is gonna be, but it'll be for a couple of weeks.
That was me, sorry.
Anything else? Make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
A second.
Any opposed with the opposition? All those in favor?
Oh, I was up.
break it
All right.
up over there.
It's like.
Motion passed. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.